I'm going to show you how to draw black hair with colour pencils. Hi, my name's Gemma and I want to help you improve your drawing skills. If it's your first time here, don't forget to click the subscribe and the notify bell so you never miss an art tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to draw black hair with coloured pencils. The very first thing I'm going to do is sketch out the hair. Now you'll see I'm using quite a dark pencil for this, not the darkest, but quite a dark pencil that I'll be using later. And I'm just very lightly marking out the hair. And as I mark it out, I'm not only marking out the outline, but I'm also drawing in any particularly dark areas of the hair, just to get that all mapped out to start with, and it will make my life easier as I go through. And once I've done that, I can start on the first colour. Now, as a general rule, when I'm using colour pencils, I like to start with the lightest colour and work my way up to the darkest, and then I work my way back down to the lightest. And this allows me to build up the colour slowly in stages. That's how I normally work with colour pencils, and that is the general rule I'm following for this. But I'm going to change it a little bit and you'll see how and why at the end of the video. So I'm starting here with this medium to light grey, and I'm going to just put a base colour all over the hair. To do this, I'm working in small little circles rather than going back and forth, so that I get a nice smooth coverage. By starting off with a light colour and covering the whole of the paper, it means that as I go on with the drawing, I don't need to worry about any of the white showing through. So now I've got all of that colour down, I can move on to a slightly darker grey. There's a few things to bear in mind at this point. Firstly, as far as how I'm using the pencil, I'm working in soft flicking motions going in the direction of the hair. I'm making sure that I'm using soft motions because if I went in really hard at this point, the hair would just look really wiry, and I want to have soft hair. Also bear in mind that hair naturally sorts itself into clumps. So to draw realistic hair, you don't draw thousands of individual strands of hair, you draw the sections. And I can use this layer to begin mapping them out. The good thing about going in light at this stage as well is that if you make any mistakes, then they can easily be covered with the next layer. So you'll see even at this very early point, I'm starting to map in my highlights and shadows. And this is what will be built upon whilst working through the other colours. So now I'm happy with that colour, I can move on to the next slightly darker colour, which is a dark blue. I always like to add some blue when I'm drawing black hair. I find it gives it extra depth. I am using it quite sparingly, and I'm particularly focusing on the areas where there's deep shadow and it's going to be very dark. And I'm still just very lightly using this colour. And once I've got all of that in, I'm going to move to dark sepia, which is the darkest colour I have that isn't black. I'm going to work through with this colour in exactly the same way as I did with the medium grey before. Still further building up those darker areas and putting a little bit of colour on the lighter areas, and just really starting to define the clumps of hair. Whenever I'm making these flicky hair strokes, I'm always making sure that I've got a very sharp pencil. It's much harder to do it without a sharp pencil, and it'll end up looking less fine and it'll look more smudged. So make sure you're sharpening your pencil to a nice fine point. I like to use the Swordfish pencil sharpener for this. I find that it works really well with the coloured pencils, but any decent pencil sharpener will do the job. And you'll see as I get towards the end of this section, it's kind of starting to look a little bit like hair, but it all needs a lot more blending, which we'll do with our other layers. I can also go through here if there's any corrections I want to make to the previous layer, then if I want to change where any of the lines go a little bit, then that's fine, and I can do some of that at this point. Now onto the darkest colour, which is of course the black. For this layer, I'm still working in those same flicking motions, but I'm only doing the very darkest bits of the hair. This will be the bits of the hair that's in deep shadow. And you can see that even at this point, a lot of the hair is still very light, and that'll start to be filled in as I work my way back down through the colours. Now before I move back on with the other colours, I'm just going to add in a little bit of shading on the hair ties with this light blue. And I'm also going to shade in some of the hairline. Because at the hairline it gets quite wispy and you can often around the hairline see some skin poking through. I'm just going to put some solid block colour around the hairline, just with this light skin colour. And then I can use that as a base to build hair upon around the hairline. I'm just drawing the hair today, but if I was drawing the full face, I would get all of the skin tone done first and then I would put the hair on top. So now I'm working my way back down through the colours. I'm going to start pressing a little bit firmer. I'm going to start off back with the dark blue and carry on building up the particularly dark shaded areas, and then I'm going to move back to the dark sepia colour. You'll see that once everything's built up, you won't actually see the blue at all, but you would know if it wasn't there. Back to the dark sepia now, and this is where it almost starts looking a little bit like black hair. I'm being quite a bit firmer, but I'm not pressing full force by any stretch. And as I work through sections this time, I'm starting to put in some little flyaway hairs as well. It just helps to create that more natural look. And whenever I do flyaway hairs, I do them very, very lightly and try to be quite random about it. You want the vast majority of them going in the direction of the hair, but there's always the odd hair that's sticking up in a random direction. So do make sure you include those as well. To start smoothing everything out, I'm going to go back to my medium grey, and I'm mostly using this colour to cover up all areas that aren't a particularly light highlight. I want this to start looking more like block colour and start covering up some of the lighter areas between the strokes. And you can see as I put this on, it does become a more solid colour, but you can still see all of the texture that I've been putting in so far. I'm going to pop a little bit of light blue on the highlight areas just to brighten them up a bit and lift them. And then I'm going to start adding the light grey. And again, I'm just aiming to cover any areas that look too light now. I am still using the flicky motions, but on the most part, I'm just trying to get this all blended together. And as I get towards the end of this, you can see that we have what appears to be a grey head of hair, which is fine. Where I've added all the lighter colours on top of the black I did quite a few layers ago, it's all got much more muted and dull. So I have gone from light to dark and back to light, as I said earlier, but I'm going to now go back to black and really darken up the dark areas and just add little flicks of black over most of the hair, and this is where it's going to turn from looking like grey hair to looking like black hair. This is my favourite bit of drawing black hair. It just suddenly all comes together and looks like black hair. Because this is the last colour to add, I like to do a section and then step back and have a look at it, see if I think it needs more, come back, do a bit more, step back, have a look, and gradually build up the black until the hair looks how I want it to look. And that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a like, and don't forget to click the subscribe and the notify bell so you never miss an art tutorial. Happy drawing, guys. I'll see you in the next one.